You know, for more than 20 years now, there's been this one book that has just completely taken over the personal finance space. It's changed the way millions of people think about money. I'm talking, of course, about Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad. This thing is a total global phenomenon. So, all right, let's really get into it. Let's unpack its incredible legacy, the good and, well, the very bad.
First off, just get a load of these numbers. We're talking over 40 million copies sold across the globe. It's been translated into more than 50 languages, reaching people in over 100 countries. So to say this book is influential, that's a massive understatement. It's a true cultural touchstone.
But here's the real question, the central conflict we're going to dig into. For every single person who calls this book a life-changing blueprint for getting rich, there's a financial expert on the other side calling it a dangerous trap full of, frankly, reckless advice. So, which is it? Let's find out.
To really get the controversy, you first have to understand how this book even got to be so legendary. Because its journey to the top was, let's just say, anything but normal.
Can you believe that every single major publisher turned this book down at first? So in 1997, Kiyosaki just went ahead and self-published it. Then a few years later, in 2000, it finally got picked up commercially. But the real explosion, that happened after an appearance on the Oprah Winfrey Show. That one interview just launched the book into the stratosphere. It landed on the New York Times bestseller list and just stayed there for over 6 years. That's not just a success, that's an absolutely meteoric rise.
And its influence wasn't just on everyday folks. You had huge celebrities like Will Smith praising it, saying he used it to teach his own kids about money. So what was this core idea that had everyone, from Hollywood A-listers to your neighbor, so completely captivated?
Well, it all boils down to a really simple but incredibly powerful story. The Tale of Two Dads.
The book basically frames its whole argument through these two competing mindsets. On one side, you've got Poor Dad, that's Kiyosaki's biological father, a super-educated academic who, despite his smarts, always struggled with bills. He's the guy who would say, "I can't afford it." But on the other side, you have Rich Dad, his friend's entrepreneurial father, who would hear the same problem and ask, "Well, how can I afford it?" It's a simple tweak, but it's a powerful way of reframing problems into possibilities.
And this quote right here, this really gets to the heart of the book's main point. Your financial destiny isn't really about your paycheck, it's about your mindset. Kiyosaki argues that being rich or poor is all a result of your financial philosophy and the little choices you make day in and day out. All right, so let's break down the actual lessons that come from this rich dad way of thinking. These are the big concepts that really got readers hooked.
First up, Kiyosaki gives a name to the problem that so many of us feel, the rat race. You know the feeling, right? It's like you're on a hamster wheel. You get a raise, but then your expenses magically go up too. You're working harder and harder, but you never seem to actually get ahead or any closer to real financial freedom. The way out of the rat race, he says, is to finally understand the difference between an asset and a liability. Now, his definition is super simple. An asset isn't just something you own, it's something that actively puts money in your pocket. Think of a rental property bringing in cash, or stocks paying dividends, or a business that makes money even when you're not there.
And on the flip side, a liability is anything that takes money out of your pocket. We're talking car loans, credit card debt, and, here's the controversial one, the mortgage on the house you live in. So, the big idea is this. Rich people spend their lives buying assets. The middle class, they spend their lives buying liabilities that they think are assets.
And that leads us to one of the book's most famous and provocative questions. If your house is costing you money every single month for the mortgage, taxes, and repairs, is it really the amazing asset everyone told you it was? For millions of readers, that idea just shattered a huge piece of traditional financial advice.
This all builds up to another key idea, the cash flow quadrant. Kiyosaki says we all make our money from one of these 4 spots. On the left side, you've got employees and self-employed folks who basically trade their time for money. The big goal, he says, is to move to the right side of the quadrant, to become a business owner where you have a system working for you and an investor where your money is actually working for you. That, he says, is the only real path to financial freedom.
Okay, so far it all sounds pretty powerful, right? It's all about changing your mindset. But this is where the whole story takes a very sharp turn. Because once Kiyosaki shifts from broad philosophy to specific what-to-do advice, that's when a lot of experts start waving some massive red flags.
The book is just riddled with what critics call dangerously speculative advice. He suggests joining an MLM, a multi-level marketing company, just to learn how to sell. He talks about gambling on super volatile penny stocks or diving into really complex strategies like flipping foreclosures and buying tax liens. I mean, these are all things that require serious expertise and a lot of cash. For a beginner, this isn't just risky, it can be financially devastating.
And yeah, the backlash from the financial world has been pretty fierce. Financial writer John T. Reed did not mince words at all, calling it one of the dumbest financial books he's ever read. He and a lot of others point to factual errors and stories that just seem, well, unbelievable, but are presented as total fact.
And remember that kind of unlikely success story? Well, critics point to a pretty crucial detail that often gets left out of the official story. A huge chunk of the book's early, self-published sales actually came from multi-level marketing companies like Amway. They allegedly made their distributors buy the book, which helped artificially pump up its sales numbers and create the buzz that got it into the mainstream.
But maybe the biggest, most damning critique of all is this one. The book is fantastic at getting you all fired up and motivated, but it's absolutely terrible at telling you what to do next. It's all big-picture ideas with almost no practical, safe, step-by-step guidance. So you finish reading, you feel totally inspired, and then you're just left thinking, okay, now what?
So where does that leave us? How do we square these two completely different takes on the book? Is it a work of powerful wisdom, or is it the product of a dangerous guru? The truth, like it usually is probably somewhere in the middle.
So let's just weigh the two sides. On the one hand, you've got these incredible mindset shifts. Make your money work for you. Pay yourself first. Focus on buying assets. This is fantastic, high-level thinking. But on the other hand, the specific advice, join an MLM, gamble on penny stocks, is seen by most experts as just plain reckless and irresponsible for the average person.
But look, if you strip away all the controversy, all the risky tactics, you're left with one enduring and undeniably valuable message. The call to take ownership of your financial education is without a doubt the book's single greatest contribution. It pushes you to learn, to ask questions, and to realize that at the end of the day, you are the one responsible for your financial future.
And that leaves us with one final, pretty critical question. There's no doubt that Robert Kiyosaki opened a door for millions of people, challenging them to stop running the rat race and start thinking like the rich. But you have to ask, does that door really lead to financial freedom for the reader, or does it just lead them into a sales funnel for Kiyosaki's next book, his next board game, or his next seminar? That's for you to decide.